Hi, sports fans. Rod Tande here with Coach Larry Henderson of the Scobie Peerless Spartans. And, Coach, first of all, I think it's only right to congratulate you on getting this far with football playoffs. Of course, Chester, a big game a week ago, and a great big game coming up on Saturday afternoon. But before anything else happens, congratulations on a great season so far.
Thank you, Rod. Yeah, we're pretty excited. The kids got over the obstacle of the quarterfinals, which the last 2 years, as everybody locally here knows, we've got knocked off in close games. So we not only overcame the obstacle, we did it in a large way. So we're kind of excited.
Looking back at Chester, of course, they scored first, presented a bit of a problem, and then you kind of turned the horses loose and they took care of themselves. 51-18, a great victory. In retrospect, was Chester not as tough as you thought, or did you feel the Spartans had just that much better ball game?
Well, I really feel that our kids, all of them, had good games or great games, if you want to look at it that way. And I think that's what you need at this time of the year. And I think you got to give them some credit. They got this far, and I think they were a good football team. And I just feel our kids came ready to play and got the job done.
You dug down deeply 2 weeks ago against Webo. They came back strong in the end of the first half and then threatened in that third quarter. And like I say, you just pulled the socks up and went to town. You've got to feel good about the two playoff victories to date. Coming up is a tough challenge, the Engineers from Harlowton, Montana. What do you know about them?
Well, I know a little bit more today than I did 4 days ago because we've never played Harlowton. And from what I've been able to get on scouting reports, they look like they're fairly decent size, and I think their strength will probably be their speed and their quickness. And so that should be a good matchup.
They've taken care of business in a very big way. They, I think, a 46-0 win a week ago. Are those the films that you saw?
Yeah, we watched one on when they played Ennis, and we have a couple other films on them. But the Ennis film is the game you're talking about. And yeah, they handled Ennis, although I think the score is a little deceptive. I think it was a little better game than the score shows. Ennis is a little better, a little stronger opponent than what they showed that day.
Given the weather that it looks like we're going to have this weekend, which is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination here, who does that favor, or how do you feel about it on a personal basis?
Well, I'm not certain that it really favors anybody, but if their strength is their speed and quickness, and I feel that's one of ours, I think it kind of stalemates that a little bit. But both teams are out there in the weather, and we work very hard on our kids mentally to not let the weather affect them because we're going to play the game regardless of the weather, so they might as well have a positive attitude.
If speed offsets speed, then how big is Harlowton coming in compared to what we have for size?
I think we have the edge in the size. When you go have a center on offense that's 270, and our guards are 195 and 180, which isn't huge, but it's about the same size as their people. And then D-line wise, we put R.J. Ross in the middle at 230, and so we're probably got a little bit of edge in the size category.
In terms of home field advantage, of course, that's always something that a coach looks forward to. The hometown, the home community, getting behind the team, and of course we're asking everyone to respond. We've got parking on the west side. We'll get into that in a little while, but the fact that Harlowton does have to travel and play us in the semifinal, our home country, a little edge for the Spartans, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it can give you an edge. I think one key thing is being able to sleep in your own bed at home and going through our regular routine that we do during the regular season. You don't disrupt that by staying at home. And then, of course, the fan support is a big one. We've had great fan support, and I understand Harlow will bring a great crew. They supposedly had more people at Ennis than Ennis had, so I look for a large following from them. And then, of course, our fan support here, I'm sure, will be very large also.
You've got a big backfield when you got Jimmy Goltz in there, and of course speed with Joel Neeskens and Leif Handren, and for that matter, you can move kids in and out. Great depth this year, as well as a big line and a great passing attack. You've kind of got a well-rounded situation here offensively, and it appears to me that this year you've been able to go in whichever direction you've needed to call on that which perhaps the opposition doesn't expect or isn't ready for. Do you feel that this is one of the main reasons that you're here in this position at this point in time?
Yeah, I think offensively we're probably as well balanced as we've ever been, and we play a lot of kids, like you said, depth-wise. We play four interior linemen in the three spots where we can, and not lose anything. We play three or four ends on offense, and we play three or four backs on offense, and it keeps them fresh. And we, some of them play both ways, so we try and rest them on one side of the ball or the other. It's usually on the offensive side of the ball. So, and I think just keeping fresh is a key for us, because you get down to the end of the game, and some of their kids have been playing both ways the entire game, are a little bit fatigued, and our kids are still a little bit more fresh.
You've got the defensive backs now being tested the last couple of weeks in terms of pass defense. If anything, if any aspect of your ball game, perhaps not weak, but not really seriously challenged for the first 7 or 8 games, it was that defensive secondary. How do you feel about where they are right now?
Okay, well, I think we got off to maybe the slow start. We had the lopsided opponents earlier in the year, but I think the group has come a long ways. We only have one returner out of that. Well, actually, out of the 5, I guess, in our D backfield, counting the linebackers, we have 2 of them back. So we had some youth and some inexperience, and then when you aren't tested, it takes a little bit. But I think they really have stood up to the challenge. I think last Saturday against Chester, they showed that. I think they did an excellent job last Saturday, and we have worked on that. And one thing I'd like to clarify is that there is a mixture of things that have to happen on pass coverage. The defensive backs get a lot of the heat for when a pass is completed, but there's 2 parts to that, and one of them is a pass rush. We have to put some pressure on their quarterback, and that'll enable our defensive backs to take care of their task a little easier. So again, it's a twofold thing. We've got to have good coverage in the secondary and some pressure put on that quarterback by our D-line.
Good point, Coach. And also, of course, the linebackers dropping off into coverage. You've had a couple of these linebackers really show well in terms of picking passes off, and they've returned for touchdowns and perhaps turned the tide of the ball game. So the defense has played very well. Special teams, talk about them just a little bit, would you?
Sure. I think when we're receiving a kick on a kickoff or a punt, I think we're potentially very dangerous because of our speed and our agility in the people that carry the ball. And then if we can get some blocking up front, I think we are capable of returning a punt or a kickoff at any time, and we've proven that during the year, I believe. And then on the other side of the ball, where we're kicking it off or punting, there again, we just have to make sure we stay in our lanes and do a good job of tackling, and that's been kind of suspect at times. But I really believe our kids will rise to the occasion on Saturday and do a real good job.
Let's talk about the kicking game now. You've got a tremendous punting defense or offense, ever how you look at it. Tim Bigliotti's done an outstanding job. You run a short punt formation for the most part. And Jim Goltz, of course, with his gigantic kickoffs and his ability to put the ball through the uprights in perhaps a field goal situation or a PAT, that has really pinned some of the opponents back in their own country quite a few times this year.
Yeah, first of all, Tim Bigliotti's been a pleasant surprise. We didn't know who our punter was going to be, and he kind of showed up and tried out and has just done a tremendous job for us. And then you mentioned Jimmy Goltz with it. He has kicked a 35-yard field goal, so we have got some range. And if we ever need be to kick a field goal, we feel we have people that can do that. And then Joey Bowes also does some kicking for us. He doesn't maybe have quite the depth that Jimmy Goltz has, but he's fairly accurate. So we feel we have 2 kids that can kick a decent range field goal too also.
Let's clear up something here in terms of the playoffs, Larry. The home field advantage has been to the Spartans through this weekend. Now, let's paint a little bit of a hypothetical situation here. Should the Spartans come out victorious, which of course we hope they will, should Terry win in their ball game this week against Denton, then the 2 Eastern teams will be challenging each other for the right to be called champion in Montana. Spartans have a 10-0 or 11-0 victory record rather. The Terriers have a 10-1 record. Does that reflect in any way the home field advantage, or is it a cut and dried deal that in that particular situation, the Spartans would be traveling nevertheless.
Yeah, it's been cut and dried from day one when the playoffs start. The state championship game will be either hosted in Terry or Denton, whoever wins that game. That is, like I said, that is set up before the playoffs even started. It happens to be on that side of the bracket this year.
And I know you don't want to look ahead at that. You want to look ahead and focus on this weekend, so we won't get into projections any further. You got any preferences, or should we get by this one? Do you have any feel, I should say personally, for that Denton-Terry ball game in terms of who might be favored?
I think as far as going with the favorite, that'd be a hard one to pick. And for me, it's a tough one because I know both coaches very well, and I happen to like both of them very well. They're well coached. They're very good teams. I would probably prefer to go to Terry if again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We have to take care of our end. But if we have to travel to Terry, we can sleep in our own beds and get up in the morning and go down and play in the afternoon and come home that day, and we won't have to travel and stay overnight, which I think is a plus.
Let's talk about field conditions a little bit. I understand that the field is frozen at this point in time. Talked to a few of the groundkeepers, and they say that it's a little hard out there right now.
Yeah, oh yeah, the kids are feeling it in practice. The ground is definitely frozen. There's now, with the snowing going on now, we're going to have to probably brush the field off again previous to the game on Saturday. But other than that, I think things will be in pretty good shape down there at Plainsman Field.
Even if we've got unfavorable weather on Saturday, again, we'll stress to the public that they can come on in. They can park on the east side of the field up on the hill. They can park on the west side on the practice field. And for the most part, as many as can fit in there can watch from the comfort and the confines of their vehicles. And we would urge everybody to plan to come. If you can't get that good parking spot, we certainly do have room in the grandstand. Dress warmly. We'd like to see a lot of support out there.
Yeah, we'll try and make it as comfortable as we can for the fans. Of course, Mother Nature is going to have a lot to do with that. So hopefully we'll just get a good turnout regardless. And like I say, dress warm, and it won't be too bad.
Well, Coach Henderson, we thank you. We compliment